Welcome to Game Devlog Episode 5, Getting Closer. If you are new to this series, then don't click off and watch the other videos. Last episode, I experimented with a new meta for this series, and I feel like I'm really gonna nail it this time. So sit back and enjoy a brief history of my game codenamed Project iDungeon. So the history of this game dates back to June of 2018, but this is when I was experimenting with making my own engine in Java for a different game. Then I decided to make some basic art, and I eventually started expanding upon the art in October. The real story starts on January 26th, when the first game devlog was uploaded. This featured a basic movement and animation system, and had a terrible pixel art segment for an idea that I ended up scrapping. The second episode came out not long after that on March 17th, and it featured a basic camera system, tile maps, animations being applied to the movement system, and the very first closed alpha stage. The third episode came out in July and featured a lighting system, a refined camera system, and collision. This was also when the second alpha phase was announced. It took around 6 months, but episode 4 came out in December and featured the third alpha with some big systems like combat, projectiles, and particles. And now with all that history out of the way, we can finally get into the video. Alpha 3 was really a rough stage for development, but it didn't start out this way. After the last episode, I began experimenting with the camera system to see what was possible to do with it, and this was the result. After that, I decided to focus my efforts towards something that actually didn't require a lot of effort, so that way I could relax myself for the upcoming holidays. So, I made the torches in my game Spark. This was just the first little test, but it got a little weird. The torch started making zombies, which caused lots of lag in my game. I have no idea what caused this, but I have a theory that it had to do with the way I checked RNG values, or random number generation values. Eventually, I got it working at the angle I wanted it at, and I got it to work as intended. Perfect. In January, I started experimenting with a General User Interface, or GUI. This is an important feature, but since it's expected in a game, I didn't really document it all that much. I got it to display the player's health, coin count, bomb and arrow count, and a magic bar, which gets replaced real soon. However, the game wasn't going anywhere, and it wasn't until I made a launcher for the game where I realized my game's code is really messy. I decided that my game's code needed organized and optimized, and this is where the project really started to hit a rough stage. I made a video covering some of this, but the game was in a real rough spot in February. I started to rewrite some code and organize it, and this made me realize how much my game relied on spaghetti code. Everything I bragged about in the last episode, like player states and sprinting, all came crashing down. Sprinting broke my collision system, and player states broke my spaghetti combat system. I eventually got out of this rough patch and fixed it up by removing sprinting and player states, which turned out to be useless anyways. But I still wasn't happy. I felt like something needed changed, and while debating about removing the current lighting system, I eventually just went in and did it. After removing the old lighting engine, I replaced it with my own, and boy did this boost performance. Well, the lighting engine I used had features like shadows, spotlights, and colored lights. It was a little complicated to use those, and it took up much performance. I also didn't need spotlights and shadows in my first ever game, but the colored lighting was tempting, and with my new lighting system, it is easy to change the color of a light. This is also when I made my video saying that I have gotten over my code rewrite hump. 3 days after that video, I tidied it up with even more stuff and released the 4th internal alpha of my game. While this video builds off of the new meta established by the last episode, Alpha 4 sets a new meta for development. I promised myself I was going to make every internal release during and after Alpha 4.0 feel like a release to the public. After Alpha 4.0.0, I started working on Alpha 4.0.1, which I eventually just called it a day with Alpha 4.1 because of its many additions. While Alpha 4.1 was the one to remove attacking with keyboard keys and the launcher, it also added so much. It fixed a crash I forgot to patch in Alpha 4.0, it added some demo levels, it added a new projectile, the Magic Bomb, which shoots off magic bullets, and I added these advanced stones. I reused some textures I made for a puzzle room, and I made this little obelisk. I then made this little sound when you activate it.
You've activated the obelisk.
This is just a placeholder sound, but I think it's kind of funny. In case you are wondering what this obelisk does, it is what will help you advance to different levels of the game. Lastly, I added a despawn feature to projectiles. After 2 minutes they will despawn, and yes, I was watching Jacksepticeye play Doom Eternal when I did this. Don't judge me. I also added a limit for how many particles can exist at the same time. The limit is 128. I will probably allow you to change this value when the game releases, but it's fine for now. This should hopefully improve performance and boost frames. Hey guys, it's me. I did a segment like this last episode and it ended up taking 10 minutes, but I'm gonna try and keep it short. I'm reading off of my phone, and that's really worked well with just like the audio sections, but there's probably gonna be some mistakes in here. I've really been working non-stop on this episode, basically an hour a minute. Like, I've been editing for like an hour just to get like a minute done. The Alpha 4 section you just saw, it probably took around 2 hours to get it done. And I've just been running on water and 2 Fig Newton bars that I've eaten for breakfast, so I've got to eat some lunch, and hopefully that'll motivate me to get through this. But anyways, I've also been working non-stop on extra content for this. The first episode actually of this extra content, it's gonna be like a little introduction. It's coming out like right after this episode. I'm not really gonna explain what this is because the first episode kind of explains it itself, and I kind of want to add like an element of surprise to this new series of extra content. It's basically gonna replace the behind the scenes video I did for the last episode. Last episode and this episode, I explained some of the history of my game and how I started making it from remaining assets from my Java game engine. And I'm gonna say it, the reason I was developing the Java game engine was for a different game, but I decided that was too ambitious, that game, and so I'm focusing my efforts now on this game, which I feel will be a little easier to make, and it's not. It's taken me a year to get to this point. Over a year, actually. And, you know, what I'm creating in GameMaker Studio 2, a lot of the stuff I can use, like the camera system, the lighting system, what did I have here? Particles, projectiles, stuff like that. Stuff I'm making in this game, I can basically just use what I have now in my next game. Like, I can use the camera system, lighting system, projectile system, particle system. I can use that. And so this has kind of opened my eyes. I'm creating my first game, but I'm also creating like a tool set I can use with GameMaker for my next couple of games. And that kind of gets into the main goal for this game and even my life. So I really want to develop games as like a full-time job, and that's probably not going to happen, but I can keep trying. I plan to learn computer science, more specifically like software engineering in college, and I may know a little bit about programming, but that's really going to teach me the ins and outs, the tips and tricks with programming. And after that, I feel I can move away from GameMaker and make more ambitious games just as little side projects. But my next few games that I make in GameMaker, I can use some of the same tools I've already created, and I can really put time and effort into them while I'm learning this other stuff. And while computer science isn't going to be like, yo, you want to make games? You want to make games? It's going to teach me a lot of stuff about software that I feel I can translate to a game engine and making games. I could probably even make my own engine, but that's just like a best case scenario. But I'll probably end up working at some place like Microsoft, Google, or Apple, or some other software company, but I can still be developing games on the side, and honestly, that's really what I want to do. And so, this game I'm making right now, and these next few games, you know, I'm going to be really passionate about them. I'm going to be passionate about, like, everything I make. But, like, I don't know how to put this into words, but I do want to be a game developer, and that's, like I said, that's probably not gonna happen, but hopefully my dreams come true. And with that, this is the end of this segment. Thank you for watching this video. It took a lot of time, a lot of hours went into this video, and I think it's my biggest video project so far. And the extra content, I'm just gonna rope it in with this. This is my biggest video project so far, so thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.